Hamas releasing the bodies of 4 hostages killed in Gaza, while Israel is freeing 600 Palestinian detainees. And for more on the Gaza ceasefire and just where it's up to, we're joined now by our Global Affairs editor, John Lyons. John, good to see you. Now, this exchange is meant to be the last in this first phase of the ceasefire. Where do you think negotiations are at the moment? Are we going to see an extension?
Well, Selena, it looks like, as troubled as it's been, it looks like it will continue. We've seen all sorts of times in this current phase where we thought it might have collapsed, but both sides want what this involves to happen. Phase 1 was the 33 hostages, including female soldiers, children, the elderly and the sick, to be handed over for hostages from Gaza in exchange for hundreds of Palestinian prisoners in Israeli jails. Now, phase 2 is meant to be the exchange for the release of the remaining living hostages, including male soldiers, male Israeli soldiers, and all remaining Israeli forces to be withdrawn from Gaza, and the temporary ceasefire to become permanent. And then phase 3, if it gets to that, would be any final remains of hostages who've been killed will be returned to their families, and a major reconstruction plan for Gaza to begin. Now, Hamas, Israel, via Qatar, Egypt, the US and others, are now starting to talk about can they get to stages 2 and 3. It gets harder and harder now, and the reason for that is that politically, from Israel's point of view, Benjamin Netanyahu is under a lot of pressure. His government it's a far-right government in Israel at the moment. It's got extremist elements such as Bezalel Smotrich, the finance minister, who want the war to resume in Gaza, and they do not want the removal, the withdrawal of Israeli troops from Gaza. They want the war to resume. Now, here's the real crunch point here. Either they continue this and it becomes permanent, or the war resumes. Benjamin Netanyahu's got, on one side, he's got, all the people wanting the war, the Europeans and others. On the other side, he's got his own political right in his cabinet saying, let's continue the war. So, to be honest, we don't know where this will go from here.
Do you think it will be reached? I mean, without saying that the first phase was, I loathe to use the word easy, but this gets really tricky for phase 2.
It does, because of that political element. In some ways, a lot depends on Donald Trump, as so many other things in the world at the moment. The Trump factor will be important. Who can read what Donald Trump really wants out of this? He has said he essentially wants this turned into a real estate development where the Palestinians would be moved to neighbouring countries. Now, that's a form of ethnic cleansing. Certainly that's the way the Arab world sees it. Saudi Arabia and the Arab world have reacted against that, as have many European countries such as the UK and France. And so we don't quite know what the Trump factor will be, but we know that Gaza's been devastated. We know there has to be reconstruction. Will it be a Saudi Arabian, regionally led reconstruction, or will it be the American sort of Manhattan real estate model? We still don't know.
Well, yes, and speaking of President Trump, of course, we've seen that he shared that AI-generated video promoting his vision for the reconstruction of that area. Let's take a look at that. I know what my reaction was, but let's talk about yours when you saw that.
Well, Selena, my personal reaction when I saw it, in fact, what Donald Trump didn't make it, but he shared it, which in this day and age of social media takes, you're endorsing it in effect, or he thought it was presumably funny. I think it's obscene. I think it's sick. Tens of thousands of children in Gaza have been killed. Israeli bombs have killed Israeli jets have dropped American bombs that have killed, maimed, disabled tens of thousands of Palestinian children and women, and to see Donald Trump in this video and Benjamin Netanyahu lying there having a cocktail on this beach. And I think the important question is, what does it say about the new President of the United States that he would think that this was funny, to have Elon Musk there eating away when there's children there in Gaza? Babies are frozen to death in recent days. It's so cold, there's no shelter. The Palestinians say that Israelis, won't let the aid in. It started obviously with the atrocities of Hamas on October 7, where they killed as many as 2,000 people and took 250 hostage. Since then, the 15, 16 months of absolute devastation. Essentially, Gaza doesn't exist in a livable form. I can't imagine any previous president from Reagan all the way through, whatever their political views, sharing this. It seems to me, after 5 weeks of Donald Trump, there's no filter. If he thinks this is funny, we've got a real problem, I think, because we expect the leader of the United States to be a statesman-like figure, whether they're Republican or Democrat. They have all these institutions around them to support them, to give them advice, to filter things. This is the first presidency, I think, in history that's unfiltered. This is unfiltered Trump, unplugged Trump. And what we saw there in that video, my own reaction was, this is grotesque.
It's repulsive. And I think even us showing it, you kind of start to get that whole, wrestle between reporting and then showing it and making, showing it to other people as well. It is truly repulsive when we're reporting on the struggles to just in this first phase of the ceasefire of getting aid in, getting machinery in, to then see this glorified gold-filtered, AI-generated.
Well, I think we need to show it because we need to understand the world and the American president. We had a wonderful story this week on the ABC website by Eric Torchek, one of our Middle East people, about the 2-year-old girl, Palestinian, having dinner with her parents not long ago. Israeli bullet came through the side of the house, hit her in the head. Her family say they couldn't get her to an ambulance there quickly enough because the Israeli soldiers wouldn't let one through. They deny that, but she died. And how can the President of the United States, I'd like if someone could ask him that question to, President Trump, how do you think this is amusing? Imagine if it was your children or your grandchildren who'd had their heads blown apart, or who'd been your 2-year-old grandchild shot in the head. Would you think that this was funny, to be lying there on a banana bed with Benjamin Netanyahu drinking a cocktail? Is this really what the world's come to, that the President of the United States think this is amusing? They're my personal reflection.
Yeah.